It's the Ringer Gambling Show. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm the prop queen, Ariel Esptein. This crew on a Thursday. Finally, we are all back together. It is week 14 in the NFL. Oh my gosh, this has flown by, this NFL season. Jastremski, you're back from Spain, where 2 weeks ago you were there, and then we had Thanksgiving. So we're all going to get you guys settled. Raheem Palmer, Jastremski, we are ready to go, locked and loaded, maybe, for Ringer 107, as always. JJ, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was fantastic, Ariel. It's great to be with the crew. I'm fired up for this show. The NFL card is absolutely positively off the rails with all of the good games that we have at our disposal. But we need to get our you-know-what together when it comes to the Ringer 107. We got off to this rip-roaring start. I liked seeing our names either in first or second place. We have fallen on hard times. No more trips to Spain. Let's get it rocking. It's great to see you guys. Let's have a bang-up show.
The Ringer Gambling Show is presented by FanDuel. FanDuel's got it all. Same-game parlays, quick bets for jumping in live, and your way so you can build the bet that fits your parlay. Plus, don't miss out on holiday offers and surprises all month long. Download the FanDuel app or head to FanDuel.com/gamblers to get started. 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys are looking to do. They're looking pretty good of late. Raheem, you're a Cowboys fan. How you feeling about them boys tonight?
I feel very good about the Dallas Cowboys tonight, and I'm going to take them on the money line plus 134. I know the Lions, they've played really well after a loss. You're talking about 14 straight after a loss, 13-1 against the spread. But I like the Cowboys in this matchup. I think the Lions are just so banged up. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Khalif Raymond. They may not play in this game. And the biggest mismatch in this game is the Dallas Cowboys offense, which is first in passing EPA per play, versus the Detroit Lions passing defense, which is last in EPA per play on defense the last 4 weeks. So they play a lot of single high. So that should create a lot of looks for George Pickens, who has been downright dominant. So I like the Dallas Cowboys on the money line plus 134. You could also look at some George Pickens props. I mean, you could look at longest reception, over 24.5 yards. You could also look at 6+ receptions. I think George Pickens is in for a dominant day. You look at the last couple of weeks. The Detroit Lions, they've given up 300-yard passing games to Jordan Love and Jameis Winston. The way Dak Prescott is playing right now, he should be able to replicate that.
JJ?
Well, I hate coming back and being the guy who's got to go and be the foil to my main man, Raheem Palmer. You know, Raheem, I love.
Are you about to be on opposite sides already?
I'm coming out guns a-blazing, Ariel. Unfortunately, Raheem, I'm on the other side in this game. I understand your logic with Dallas because they have looked like the much better football team over the last couple of weeks. But this, to me, reeks of the classic rah-rah, all-in, putting the chips in the middle of the table game for my main man, Dan Campbell. And I did see a Detroit offense, despite losing St. Brown, despite losing Laporta, really start to find their footing in the second half of that game against the Green Bay defense, to me, that is much better than the Cowboy defense you are going to see on Thursday night. I know how well Dak Prescott is playing. I know CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens is an incredible 1-2 punch, but I think the ground game for the Detroit Lions is going to be the difference here. And the Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery 1-2 punch, combined with the fact that if you walk around America, everybody now is all in on the boys. Everybody is sipping that Cowboy Kool-Aid. Nobody is rushing to the ticket window here to go and lay the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Lions laying the 3. Forget about the Tigers. We are roaring with the Lions laying the 3. I'm sorry, Raheem. I hate coming back and being a pain in the neck from Jump Street, but I am taking Dan Campbell in this spot. This is now the third straight show me game for the Cowboys. They shined against the Eagles. They shined against the Chiefs. I will say with Dallas, after they lose this game to the Lions, they will run the table and win their final 4 games. But they're going to get picked off here. I'm on Detroit.
Cowboys on a 3-game win streak. They look good. Defense looks improved. However, I was pretty surprised to see that the Cowboys have still been allowing quarterbacks to go over their passing yards props. I know I love a prop a little bit more than this, but you could look to Jared Goff. He plays better at home. He's going over his passing yards prop today. I mean, like 4 of the last 5 quarterbacks to face the Cowboys have still gone over their passing yards prop, and they're still bottom 10. In fact, they are allowing some of the most passing yards per game to quarterbacks. Jared Goff at home is always an over for me. But I really love Jahmyr Gibbs just in the passing game today. His longest reception prop, which I know is very unconventional for a running back, is sitting at about 13.5. Take the over. He's averaging 21 yards per longest catch. When Gibbs faces a defense that's bottom 10 against pass-catching backs, that's the Cowboys, allowing the 3rd most receiving yards per game to running backs. Yeah, you could go rushing and receiving too, but I'm just going to go the over on the longest reception, which is a number that Gibbs has proven to go over against defenses struggling against pass-catching backs. Raheem, I know you're a Cowboys fan. As I mentioned, the Cowboys are 45-1 to win the Super Bowl on FanDuel Sportsbook at the moment. How much value is there really on the Cowboys, or is this just a hot streak?
I don't think it's just a hot streak. I think they're playing like one of the best teams in the league. We know the offense was there, but now this defense can get after the quarterback. Now, I want to bring something up that, JJ said. I mean, JJ is jumping on the Detroit Lions, and I kind of understand it because the look-ahead line on this game was Lions minus 5.5 last week. So from a numbers perspective, I can understand why he's going there. But I think when you look at the injuries of the Detroit Lions, you look at the offensive line, you look at the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown might not play, I just don't know if this is the same Detroit Lions team that we've seen at the start of the year or the ones in previous iterations. I think ultimately this game is going to come down to 4th down variance, like all Dan Campbell games. And at this point in time, you look at the Detroit Lions, they've missed on 7 straight 4th downs. So it appears that the offensive line is not being able to get that push, not able to protect for Jared Goff. And we know that this Cowboys team can rush the passer. So I look at the Cowboys, I think they're live to win the division. This is basically a de facto playoff elimination game. Whoever loses this game is probably out of it. So I like my Dallas Cowboys. I think the streak continues. JJ, may the best man win.
7-1 to win the division, the Cowboys right now. And everyone gets all sold on what's going on recently, but we've got a season bias, and that's Jastremski and his anytime touchdown scorers in these primetime Thursday night games. Who you got tonight?
So I went in the lab, Ariel. I really wanted to get cute. I really wanted to go off the beaten path, but I'm kind of going conventional here. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You know what, Ariel? Sometimes conventional, believe it or not, wins. David Montgomery is even money to go and score a touchdown. There's no way in the world I'm laying the juice with Jahmyr Gibbs. He's probably going to score. I love what you're doing with the longest reception. But for Detroit to go and have success in this game, they're going to need both running backs to step up in a big way. Let's take Montgomery as an anytime for Detroit. Then for the Cowboys, you pay so much attention to those 2 wide receivers. Raheem hit on George Pickens, who's having this outstanding season. CeeDee Lamb has come to life. Don't sleep on Jake Ferguson. That is the guy that Dak Prescott likes to throw to, specifically when you get inside the 20-yard line. So for my 2 anytime touchdowns, I'm going with David Montgomery, who you're getting at basically even money on a FanDuel Sportsbook. And then I'm going to take Jake Ferguson, a little bit more value than Pickens, a little bit more value than Lamb. Get him around 140, 145, give or take.
I like that you're going with at least a little bit of plus money on those anytime touchdown scorers. I try to find value. It is really difficult to handicap a game when a star player like Amon-Ra St. Brown is still very much up in the air. How much did that factor into your handicap, Raheem?
It definitely factored into my handicap. You can see that the offense really isn't the same. And, one of the things that I actually suggest, it's unfortunate they don't have his prop up here, but I would take him under. because I think he may be more of a decoy if he does play. So when they do those props up, I think that's the direction that I'm looking. But as far as an anytime touchdown, I like George Pickens plus 130. This guy leads the team in touchdowns at 8. You know, he gets a ton of targets in the red zone. So I think you're getting value on George Pickens at plus 130. And, you know, DeBundo said it on our Monday show. It's possible that he's live for Offensive Player of the Year. So you might want to look at those markets.
I saw George Pickens was the most bet on over prop today. He's like his over receiving yards prop is one of the most bet on props. 99% of action coming in on the over for George Pickens. I mean, like, does that make you stay away, JJ?
Yes, it does. And look, with his emergence over the last few weeks and really this entire season as a whole, if there's anybody who to me on Dallas is undervalued to go off in this game, I'm kind of looking at CeeDee Lamb. I know it sounds crazy because CeeDee Lamb has been a fantasy darling and CeeDee Lamb has had these great years for the Dallas Cowboys. But with the emergence of the Pickens show, hey, I ended up betting CeeDee Lamb to score an anytime touchdown in the game last Thursday against the Kansas City Chiefs. There's value, I think, in getting involved with Lamb because, hey, the betting market, as you just alluded to, and anybody who plays fantasy football, Ariel, they can't get enough George Pickens in their life. So, yeah, 99% of everybody getting involved with Pickens, that's a no for me, dog.
Hey, we can all say bad things about Jerry
I gotta
Jones,
be honest
but
with you. I don't think we've reached the floor. I don't think we've reached the ceiling on George Pickens yet. He's had 6 receptions in 5 straight in 6 out of the last 7 games. 9 targets in 5 straight in 6 out of the last 7 games. 9 of the last 11. Like he said, 75 plus receiving yards in 7 straight in 8 out of the last 9 games. So the only thing that I think is really priced in at this point in time is his actual receiving yards at 82.5. I think everything else, you're kind of looking at it and saying, you know what, there's probably still value here because the amount of targets that he's getting. It's not like they priced this at George Pickens, 10 plus receptions. He's getting 9 targets a game. So I think there's still value there despite the whole world being on it.
I'm giving Jerry Jones the credit that he deserves, which people don't like to do. But George Pickens this year, Quinnen Williams, those were some huge pickups that have really helped the Dallas Cowboys. That game kicks off 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. Again, the Lions are laying 3, the total 54.5. Up next, how do we bet some of the most popular games of the week? We'll tell you here on the Ringer Gambling Show. Back here on the Ringer Gambling Show, sponsored by FanDuel, Jastremski, Raheem Palmer, I'm Ariel Esptein. We've got the most important, the biggest, the most bet on, probably, games in Week 14. We've got to discuss how everyone could bet on these in a smart way and don't be so public. Let's start with you, Raheem. We're going with this Colts and Jags game. It feels ugly, even though it's 2 teams that are kind of on the up. The Colts, not so much, but relative to what we thought about the Colts going into the year, they're still having a great season with a banged-up quarterback in Daniel Jones. Colts laying 1.5 on the road at the Jags, 47.5 is the total. How would you play this game?
So this game is extremely tough for me because I don't know if you guys noticed, but the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville since September 21st, 2014. The Colts won that game 44-17 with Andrew Luck. So it's been quite a while.
So we're going to compare Daniel Jones to Andrew Luck today. Great.
Yeah, and, maybe the first half of the year, he might have played as well as Andrew Luck. He was 7th in EPA per play plus completion over expectation, 6th in success rate. But over the last 4 games, since the Week 9 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who we know is hot garbage at this point, he's 29th in EPA per play plus completion over expectation and 22nd in success rate. So Daniel Jones isn't the same quarterback, and now he's playing with an injured leg. Like he has a fractured leg, and now he can't run. He can't get those RPOs off. And I'm starting to question if some of the success of Jonathan Taylor has something to do with the RPOs that Daniel Jones was running. So now you don't have to worry about the threat of Daniel Jones, and it makes it a little easier to stop Jonathan Taylor. Now, the thing that's tough about this game is that the Jaguars, they have a ton of injuries. Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead. You just have so many guys injured for the Jaguars that it's tough for me to kind of back them. And a lot of people will look at this Colts side and say, you know what, you're getting some value on the Colts because, this is a Jaguars team that isn't very good. So I'm kind of staying away from this one, but I would lean towards the Jaguars if they can get some guys back healthy.
Listen, if I had to bet the game, I'm taking Jacksonville. Everything that Raheem alluded to as far as history, the Colts go to Jacksonville and terrible things happen. It doesn't matter who's on the roster. It's one of those annual traditions you can bank on year in and year out in the NFL. And then if you just look at the eye test between these two teams, Jacksonville has looked much better over the last few weeks. I don't like what I've seen from Jones because of the injury standpoint. Taylor is not going off the way that he was going off earlier in the year. And then you throw in the calf injury to Sauce Gardner. So the big move that they made at the deadline to go and bolster that defense, now all of a sudden the Colt defense takes a hit here. The injuries scare me for Jacksonville. Raheem hit on it because they have a lot of injuries on defense, and we know that Trevor Lawrence is due to maybe turn the football over a couple of times in this game. He played a clean game against Tennessee. He did not play a clean game 2 weeks ago against the Arizona Cardinals. So it's not one of my favorite plays. This will not be a 107 play. But if you're playing this game and you've watched the Colts in Jacksonville over the last decade, how are you lining up to go to the window and say, yeah, I want to go lay 1.5? Jacksonville or pass?
And you mentioned Sauce Gardner being hurt. DeForest Buckner is out as well. So Jaguars should be able to run the ball. So there's injuries on both sides, and that makes this tough.
What people also don't realize, the Colts running back Jonathan Taylor's splits, home road splits, completely drastic. He's averaging 74 rushing yards a game on the road this year and over 100 when he's at home. Yet this prop is sitting at 94.5 because a lot of the time in the prop market, the sports books love to just take the average of what a running back has done, and we're not assessing the splits, which are insane. He's had 77, 54, and 19 rushing yards in Jacksonville the last 3 matchups. The Jags defense has been great against running backs. They've allowed the least rushing yards per game to the position at 63. Jonathan Taylor, under 94.5 rushing yards, and if the guys are right, if like JJ said, he likes Jacksonville or pass, well, if the Jags are up, the Colts are going to have to throw the football. Take it away from Jonathan Taylor under his rushing yards prop. Guys, be careful with this next game because you know where my allegiances lie. And my stupid self decided to spend my stupid Thanksgiving in the freezing tundra of M&T Bank Stadium, where it was 20 degrees, 15-mile-an-hour winds, all to watch my team, the Baltimore Ravens, as 7.5-point favorites, lose to Joe Burrow's first game back since his turf toe, lose at home. So I'm an angry, pissed-off Ravens fan who now gets to watch them on a lot of rest against their rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the Ravens are laying 6.5, total 45.5. Lamar talking smack Raheem to people on social media, saying say less to whoever tweeted about how bad Lamar's been playing. Are we buying that Lamar can make a comeback?
So this line doesn't make any sense. What did that line close between the Ravens and the Bengals last week?
7.
7 to 7.5. So are you telling me that this Pittsburgh Steelers team, the one right now that's lost 3 out of their last 4 games and has been hot garbage, is better than the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow? That doesn't make any sense. So before even getting into the game, that should be an auto play for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the problem is, do you buy that Lamar Jackson is going to be able to put things together? Now, I don't think the Steelers defense is very good at all. I think Aaron Rodgers right now is really, really struggling. I mean, this is a guy who he had 21 passing attempts for 117 yards in the first half. Like, it's just he's not a competent NFL quarterback at this point in time. So I think it's kind of an auto play on the Bengals, not the Bengals, on the Ravens. But the problem I'm having here is I just don't know what the Ravens are, and trying to lay margin in this matchup has always been tough because a lot of these matchups are 3-point games. So I would probably be looking towards the under here. I think both offenses are really struggling right now. So I would go under 43.5.
I just want to say I love Cincinnati, and due to the fact that I am a great teammate and I knew that Ariel was going to be there on Thanksgiving night, I couldn't pound on the table, demand that we take it for the 107. But I got to know, Prop Queen, because your videos on Instagram and TikTok were great. The wine at least looked spectacular. Was it good wine at M&T?
What? Wine?
Yeah, your wine. It looked good.
No, it
Enjoy
wasn't
some
wine.
nice
I put Bailey's in the hot chocolate.
I thought it was wine. It looked like you were drinking
Wine in the
I couldn't
hot
even
chocolate?
tell.
What? No. Okay, so at M&T Bank Stadium, this is the first time I actually bought a separate shot of Bailey's at the bar and put it in the hot chocolate.
Ooh, okay, you
But
got creative
usually
here.
at M&T, the first time I saw it years ago, they have a stand. That's like one stand in the whole stadium that they sell hot chocolate, but they also will give you a shot of Bailey's in it. But then I saw a few years ago that there was vendors going around with the hot chocolate, and then they also will do the shot. I couldn't find it anywhere, and I live for the Bailey's hot chocolate at M&T Bank Stadium because I want to continue drinking, especially because it's the Ravens, and it's cold, and I don't want a cold drink, which is what you usually would drink at a sporting event. I went to the bar. I said, "Do you happen to have Bailey's? I just need a shot or two of Bailey's to bring to my seat." So the bartender goes to the back, gets me the little mini of Bailey's. I got 2 of them. I bought myself a separate hot chocolate from the kids stand, and then I dipped my Bailey's in the hot chocolate.
So you were the bartender. Okay, so listen, that was good. The result obviously was not.
You needed to keep drinking if you're going to watch that crap.
I totally understand. These two teams are a hot mess. I mean, can we acknowledge that? Raheem hit on the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's 40 years old. He's playing with the
he's
fracture.
42.
Whatever his
It was just
age
his
is.
birthday.
His wide receivers are not on the same page. He's diming them out after the game. But then your Baltimore team, Lamar Jackson's not 100% right. It was so apparent and so obvious watching that game on Thursday. This is not the same Lamar Jackson that I'm used to seeing. That all being said, how can anybody bet the Pittsburgh Steelers in this spot? You can't do it. Their defense stinks. Their quarterback looks washed. They have no weapons that scare you. And Baltimore smoked them last year in the postseason. You know, normally with Steeler-Raven games, the old adage is, it doesn't matter what the teams look like, just go and take the points. We're not doing that here. Ariel, your team bounces back. I'm laying the 6.5.
It is crazy, the history between the Ravens and the Steelers. They show the graphic pretty much every year that it's 1 point that separates these two. From a historical standpoint of Tomlin versus Harbaugh, it's 1 point of a differential. So 6.5 is such a huge spread for such a rivalry. And this is only the first meeting of the year. I was, to just clear my name, at that Ravens-Steelers playoff game. It was the only one I would attend. And then everyone said, "Go to Buffalo." I said, no, thank you.
Smart
Thank God I
decision.
didn't.
Smart
Thank
move.
God. There was a trend in this series that stood out. So the Ravens just signed tight end Mark Andrews to his 3-year, $39 million contract, which nobody in Baltimore saw coming, except Mark Andrews, who proposed to his now fiance last week. I assume he was waiting to find out he was staying in Baltimore. But anyway, the other tight end on the Ravens, Isaiah Likely, not so much in the news. Yet against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he has gone over his 15.5-yard longest reception prop in 4 straight games against Pittsburgh. 27 yards, 42 yards, 19-yard, and 25-yard catch in the last 4 against the Steelers. In home games against Pittsburgh, 3 of those 4 went over at home against the Steelers. 5 straight divisional games, Likely's gone over his longest reception prop. That all said, clearly Lamar Jackson and the Ravens like to use Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews more as a decoy because his divisional numbers are actually not as strong as Isaiah Likely, especially for longest reception. 61% of tight ends have gone over their longest reception prop against the Steelers. So we're going to go with the over Isaiah Likely on his longest reception prop at 15.5 yards. The Kansas City Chiefs, a team that, just like the Ravens, disappointing season to some sort, except the Ravens could have had the excuse, I guess Lamar was out for a little bit. But anyway, the Chiefs, the line's moving against them, -4.5 to -3.5. They're facing the Houston Texans at home at Arrowhead. Total 42.5 has dropped to 41.5. This is Sunday Night Football, right, JJ? So how are you playing the Chiefs and Texans?
This is pretty simple to me. There's no more dangerous defense in the entire league at the moment than the Houston Texans. You throw in the fact that Kansas City on the offensive line is absolutely ravaged with injuries. This matchup looks nightmarish if you are the Chiefs. How are you going to be able to block the Houston Texans? You throw in the fact this is a revenge game for Houston because they were right there with the Chiefs in the divisional round a year ago. They did not get the better of it from the officiating standpoint. Obviously, their offense left a lot to be desired. And I know what the narrative is going to be, Raheem. kitchen sink game. No way the Chiefs can lose. Chiefs are going to bounce back with extra time to prepare. I, for one, don't see it. I think the Texan defense is going to own the line of scrimmage. I think it's going to be a struggle for Patrick Mahomes. And I see 3.5. I think it's too many. And I'll take it a step further, Dream. I think these Texans are going to win the game. I really do.
I totally agree with you. My model puts this game at Chiefs -2, so at 3.5. As we know, games land on 3 15% of the time, so you're getting a hook here with the better defense. Right guard Trey Smith, he missed the game against the Cowboys last week. Jawan Taylor, he suffered a triceps injury. Josh Simmons, he left the game with a wrist injury. So the entire Kansas City offensive line is banged up. And let me remind you, the Texans are first in EPA per play on defense. They're holding teams to 16.5 points per game and are 6 in sacks. Will Anderson is a complete problem. And I hate to say it, but this game could resemble that Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, where...
Wow, you're going that far. Okay, Raheem.
I am going that far
okay.
Because I just think the offensive line is just so banged up. And this Texans defense, they've suffocated everybody. You talk about the Rams. You called the Rams one of the best teams in the league. They held the Rams to 14 points. Like, you look at the games in which the Texans have lost, they've all been one-possession games, and where they had chances to win all of them. The game against the Rams, Wale fumbles it at the 18-yard line as they're driving to take the lead. The game against the Buccaneers, 4th and 10, somehow Baker Mayfield escaped.
Oh, don't remind me, Raheem. I don't want to hear about that.
Like, just crazy stuff. The Jaguars game in which they lost. They're driving to take the lead with under 2 minutes to go and fumble, and then the Jaguars score a touchdown. So you look at all of the games that they've lost, they probably should have won except for the Seahawks game. And I just think this Kansas City Chiefs team, they're not the same. I like the Texans plus 3.5. I like a money line, and I also think this is an under. The Texans are 9-3 to the under. The Chiefs are right behind them at 8-4. This is going to be a low-scoring game. This might be like 17-13, or this might be 20-17 if we're lucky. It's not going to be a lot of points in this game. Give me the Texans plus 3.5. Honestly, the Texans win this game, they might run the table.
Oof, the return of the quarterback, C.J. Stroud, has been really good for those Texans. You're on the right side of the line move, Raheem. Chiefs, again, the point move against them, and the total has dropped by a point as well. The running back for the Texans, Woody Marks, under 50.5 rushing yards. I've already seen this drop to 48.5 in spots. He's averaging 34 rushing yards a game with Stroud and 60 without Stroud. Of course, the Texans are going to rely more on their running back with their starting quarterback out. They're not relying on him as much. Under in 5 of 6 road games this year. The Chiefs, despite their struggles, still have been top 5 against running backs. 5th least rushing yards per game allowed to the position. 64% of running backs have gone under their rushing yard prop against those Chiefs. So Woody Marks not going to be utilized as much, especially if this game is a little close at Arrowhead. And C.J. Stroud, let him cook. We've got Cincinnati at Buffalo. The Bengals, they've got a lot of rest under their belt after playing on Thanksgiving, beating my Ravens. The Bills also know how to beat my Ravens. This is just the game of teams that beat the Ravens. The Bills, -5.5, total up 52.5 to 53.5. JJ, what you got?
Oh, baby, I can't wait for this game. There are so many juicy games on the card, but I get Josh Allen and Joe Burrow mano y mano. Well, here's a dirty little secret. Joe Burrow has gotten the better of Josh Allen each of the 2 times they have matched up. Joe Burrow looked pretty darn comfortable in his first game back from injury. And I think what you're going to see here, folks, is some people are going to overreact to what Buffalo did a week ago against that hapless Pittsburgh Steelers team. And they're going to say the Bengal defense is cooked, and this is a great buy low spot on the Bills. Not so fast. I think Cincinnati is live because of the presence of their quarterback. Their defense finally showed some signs of life against the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday. And to me in this game, don't even mess with the points. I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are keeping their season alive. Yes, I've bet them to win the AFC North. Yes, I have bet them to go make the postseason at some crazy, crazy numbers. And I think they're going to go into Orchard Park. And Joe Burrow is now going to be 3-0 against Josh Allen. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals on the money line, Ariel. Upset City. Cincinnati is beating the Bills.
See, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like this game at all. And a big reason why is because you look at last week, the Baltimore Ravens, they were laying 7.5 to the Bengals. And now this line is 5.5. And if you ask me, I think the Bills and the Ravens probably are on a similar level. And I think a lot of people are going to see that game where the Ravens have 5 turnovers. And if you go back to that game, Isaiah Likely, he's going into the end zone and is about to score. And if he
don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
No, but if he scores there, the Ravens have the lead, and this is a completely different game. And I think sometimes NFL games, they take on a life of their own. And we have to remember that this Bengals defense really, they're not good. I just think last week's game.
But do you think that the Joe Burrow, now he's back a second week, has a game under his belt, has something to do with that?
I mean, I think it does, but ultimately the defense still isn't good. And I think ultimately, had Lamar Jackson, played better, I think last week said more about Lamar Jackson than it said about the Bengals defense. So I'm giving the Bills offense a much higher floor. And obviously, Joe Burrow's going to have to keep up with that. I'm not saying I want to take the Bills, but I'm saying that this is probably going to be the public underdog of the week. And
I hate that.
Scares me.
See, that's fair, Raheem. That is fair. At the same time, that Buffalo defense all of a sudden didn't get right because of what they were able to do against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, return of T. Higgins, Cincinnati's going to be able to score.
And that's why I said I hate this game, because I don't think Buffalo's very good at either. I think defensively they have some issues. So to me, it's very hard to get me on one side or the other, because I think the Bengals are going to be the public underdog, but at the same time, I'm not sure I trust the Bills to lay 5.5 against Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow is one of the best in the league, so I can't do it.
Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end for the Bengals, doubtful with a hip injury still, and he missed last week as well. I do like how Josh Allen plays better in Buffalo, which is why I'm going to him for Queen's Corner. I'm just going to run through Queen's Corner because we need all the time that we can do for Ringer 107. I'll go through these real quick. Josh Allen over his passing yards. He's had 264 and 258 passing yards against the Bengals his last 2. 4 of his 6 home games this year have gone over this number of 229.5, averaging 276.5. This year against teams that are bottom 10 against the pass, he went over against Tampa and Baltimore. He went under against Pittsburgh. I lost that bet last week. However, the Tampa and Baltimore games were in Buffalo, whereas the game in Pittsburgh was in Pittsburgh. So again, the home games matter, and the Bengals defense sucks. 4th most passing yards per game allowed to quarterbacks. 83% of quarterbacks this year have gone over their passing yard prop when facing this Bengals secondary. So we're going to go over on Josh Allen at home passing yards. Baker Mayfield under his pass attempt prop, 30.5. So they are a touchdown favorite, a little bit more than a touchdown favorite, Tampa. And in all 3 home wins, Baker has gone under this number of 30.5. New Orleans, second least pass attempts per game at 27.5 allowed to quarterbacks. They're always losing. So if you're always losing, if there's a chance the Bucs are winning and winning by as much as the spread indicates, then Baker doesn't have to throw the football. And lastly, Trevor Lawrence over 31.5 pass attempts. He's gone over this in 3 of 4 games, averaging 36 pass attempts a game, went up against the bottom 10 pass D, averaging 34 pass attempts in 6 home games this year. The Colts have actually allowed the most pass attempts per game to quarterbacks at 38. 9 of the last 10 quarterbacks have gone over their pass attempt prop against the Indianapolis Colts. Those are my top 3 Queen's Corner props going into the weekend. But we've got to get our top 5 spreads of the weekend. And we've got Ringer 107, sponsored by FanDuel, coming up next here on the Ringer Gambling Show. It's the Ringer Gambling Show, and now it's time for our own Bodega Locks to do Ringer 107. Ringer 107 brought to you by FanDuel. It is our weekly pick'em contest. And aside for us, Bodega Locks, it's Sal and Debundo, the fantasy guys, Bill Simmons and House and Shill. So it's week 14. We've got to do this. And we've got to do it in a time frame, Raheem. We've got to come up with the teams that we want. And we can't argue for a half hour and go through the entire slate of games. We've got this locked and loaded. You get to go first. Which team are you blessing Bodega Locks with?
I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles -2.5. This is all about Justin Herbert. He had a procedure this week. He had that hand injury, and We don't know if he's going to play or not, but ultimately I think this line goes to 3 or 3.5. I think obviously the Eagles have a dominant pass rush, and I don't expect them to give up 280 rushing yards this week. So I think the Eagles are a good spot to bounce back. So that's what I'm taking.
Okay. Eagles is one play. JJ, what you got?
For what it's worth, I would give that play a full-fledged stamp of approval because I think the Eagle defense is going to go off. There's going to be no home field for the Los Angeles Chargers and the uncertainty of Justin Herbert. So we're 1 for 1. You guys know where I'm going with number 2. I already gave out Cincinnati on the money line. So clearly I'm going to take Cincinnati plus the 5.5 against the Buffalo Bills because I'm a sucker for some Joe Cool, baby. I think Joe Burrow's return enlivens this Cincinnati team. It's a Buffalo defense I don't trust. Joe Burrow has gotten the better of Josh Allen. I think this is a classic 35-31, 28-24, really fun, really entertaining game in Orchard Park. And I feel very, very comfortable grabbing the 5.5 with a Cincinnati team that, to me, has a new lease on life. Give me the Bengals plus the 5 in the hook.
Okay, so we've got the Eagles, we've got the Bengals. So far, we're pretty balanced. I'm going Minnesota, minus 1.5 at home against Washington. I like that Minnesota's defense is definitely the better defense. It's very rare that you get what looks like a massive upgrade for a quote-unquote first-year quarterback coming back, but it's the truth. Last week, Minnesota looked absolutely atrocious, so getting their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, under center, it is a huge upgrade. Nonetheless, there's nothing I like more than fading a team like Washington, who just played a primetime game that went to overtime, that was close. They could have won or tied the game, but decided to go for 2 in overtime, and they didn't convert on the 2-point conversion, losing 27-26 to the Denver Broncos. A very tough game to have to follow up on the road in Minnesota. I'm going to lay it minus 1.5. I was toying between Atlanta and Denver, but because I have gotten screwed in Ringer 107 with these large spreads recently, I am going to stick to a short spread of 1.5, guys. We've got 2 more that we have to discuss. Raheem, you go first. Which
Houston
team?
Texans. Houston Texans
Yes.
plus 3.5.
Endorse.
This actually should have been my favorite pick, but I decided to go with the Eagles. But Houston Texans plus 3.5. I rolled with them last week. I'm riding with them again. I might ride with them for the rest of the season. Don't
Why?
be
I should say,
surprised if
Raheem,
this is literally.
if you like Houston, you take them on the money line in this game, correct?
Yes, but I also think they can cover the 3.5. I mean, we know the Chiefs have been in all of these one-score games. This could easily land on 3. But I like Houston. Honestly, I think Houston runs the table. I'm probably going to be betting Houston for the rest of the year unless something changes.
Well, on that note, Raheem, we should bet them to win the AFC. Because to me, if you like them to get into the postseason with that defense, they're going to be incredibly dangerous. That, to me, is a ticket I'm going to add to the portfolio before this show comes to a close. Because I'm with you on the Texans. Prop Queen, though. We need your blessing on this. We're both on the Texans. We both want to include the Texans, but we need some family unity here. Can we make it 3 for 3?
I'm back. I'll back the Texans, absolutely. I think that there's no way in the world that I could lay points with the Kansas City Chiefs right now. They do not look like a good, well-rounded football team, minus the defense, but the Chiefs are on the way down. The Texans are on the way up. I've been fading the Chiefs this entire season. I'm going to continue to fade the Chiefs, and I'm going to take the hotter team, which is the Houston Texans. But I know that the one team that you guys are going to really need my blessing on is the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh,
I can live with
game. I don't know.
I'm not crazy in love with it, but the fact that the Ravens were laying 7.5 to the Bengals and are only laying 5.5 to the Steelers, I can live with it. I think you're getting value. Obviously, between these two teams, they play 3-point games, so I'm not crazy about it, but I can live with it.
Is that the last game that we want, or is there another one?
Well, that's why I'm looking at the card. By the way, I love your J.J. McCarthy Minnesota pick. And even though I have proclaimed multiple times on this show that letting friends bet J.J. McCarthy is usually not a sign of success.
No, that's really the Jets.
No, or the Titans, which we foolishly did a week ago. Shame on us for that. It's such a bad spot for Washington coming off the Sunday night overtime game. And if you're going to get a spirited effort from Minnesota the rest of the season, that's a game to do so. Can I throw one at you guys?
Yeah.
I don't think you guys are going to like it. But
So then no.
no, but I got to get your thoughts on it anyway.
Are you fading your Dolphins on the road?
No, it's the opposite. I'm taking them against the Jets. I think it is
Jesus
a great.
Because the Jets won?
Exactly. The Jets just won a game.
How do
Their
your
defense-
Dolphins play in MetLife?
Tua has never lost to the Jets. Temperatures
It's going to be cold, no?
Mid-40s. Not a lot of wind. It's tolerable.
Doesn't Tua hate the cold?
Well, forget about Tua. How are the Jets stopping the runaway freight train that is Devon Achane, who has been a man possessed over the last 6 weeks? Dolphin defense has played a lot better. I'm just throwing it out there, gang. I didn't expect to get, a major stamp of approval on this.
Are you going to be there?
Absolutely not. With the card that we have on first
Boo! You give out a play on your team playing here where you live and you're not attending?
Yes, there's valid reasons for this. Number one, I have the Ringer Sunday pregame show that I have to do from 11 to 1 o'clock. Two, getting to MetLife Stadium is an absolute horror, as you know. Number three, there are so many good games on that I want to watch, in addition to the slop fest that is going to be at MetLife Stadium, Ariel. I mean, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, this Cincy Buffalo game that I'm drooling about, your Steelers and Ravens, and you want me out in the cold and my beautiful
If you're going to give out the Dolphins -3, yeah, I do.
I can be on the couch and give out the -3 and enjoy it. I mean, that's what I'm
Raheem,
doing.
can we lay 3 with the Dolphins when JJ won't even go watch it?
I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can. I think my problem with this game is just I don't know how cold it's going to be. And that scares me, because we know about Tua and Nicole, but at the same time, I do think JJ kind of makes a point about Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins with Tua never losing to the Jets. I think this is a tough one because I was leaning Jets actually. I really
and I expect that you're going to have a lot of short people, Raheem, going and taking the Jets because they're going to look at Miami and they're going to say, hey, their offense doesn't put up any points anymore. The Jets have won 3 of their last 5 games. Yeah. Finally, Glenn gets a chance to go and win a division game, go and take them. I just didn't really
But you're right, though. Honestly, they shouldn't have won that game last week.
I bet the Jets. They were good to me last week.
They were good to me last week.
They were very fortunate to win. Very.
Yeah, I mean, basically the special teams won that game for them.
So we don't like Miami is the bottom line, which means we still need to find one more Ringer 107 play.
The problem is the rest of the card. I don't want to go near Rams and Cardinals.
Would you lay 7.5 with the Denver Broncos against the bad Raiders?
The Raiders played them tough the first game. The Raiders
which is why I like them more.
For the record, we don't agree on the Packers and the Bears game.
That's why I'm glad you brought it up, Raheem.
They like the Packers.
It's a huge matchup, and we didn't get through it when we did the card earlier. We are completely split on this, and here's why I'm fine passing on Packers-Bears. The Bears did me so dirty last week against the Eagles that it's one of those games where it's like, you know what? I'll bet the Packers. I'll curse out the Bears at 425, but I'm not going to put more added sauce on the Ringer 107. So I'm okay with the stay away. I could be sold on the Ravens, guys. I just wanted to go through the card and see if we could find ourselves a winner, but it looks like we can't. I don't love laying 7. Ariel, you just said you don't like laying these big numbers in division games.
Well, I didn't want it to be my personal. I didn't want it to be my personal pick.
The problem I have with that Bears-Packers game is that the Packers were literally laying 7 to Minnesota. So how could Minnesota be catching 7 and... No, actually, they were laying 6.5 to Minnesota.
6.5.
So, in the way this Bears
because the Bears aren't that good. The Bears have the 29th easiest schedule the 29th hardest schedule in the NFL. It is an easy schedule.
Hear me out. What was the Packers' best win?
I have to go look.
Lions.
They haven't but I'll tell you the difference.
It's probably the Lions.
Lions twice.
I'll tell you the difference. They both have an easy schedule, except the Bears are not top 15 in offensive or defensive efficiency, and the Packers are. So the Packers are top 10.
What was the Bears' best win? The Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Who did the Philadelphia Eagles beat? Green Bay Packers.
Okay, so we're going to go with the Ravens then, because we've got breaking news that we have to get to.
We can go with the Ravens. We can flip a coin and go between the Ravens and the Dolphins. Either one is cool.
Take the Ravens, because that way I can curse my team out on my own accord. That's fine.
Great. And now we'll all hate my team together.
Prop Queen. It's all on you.
Great. We'll all hate my team together. I love that for me. JJ got Cincy. I've got Minnesota. Raheem's got the Eagles. Then we've got Texans and Ravens. All these are against the spread. That is Ringer 107 for Bodega Locks, brought to you by FanDuel. Remember, odds are subject to change. There is breaking news in the association, and we're going to talk about how the hell we handicap it. Coming up next here on the Ringer Gambling Show. Breaking news now on the Ringer Gambling Show here on a Thursday. The Bucks MVP, their best player on the floor, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's out for the next 2 to 4 weeks with a right calf strain. This is coming right after the Shams story yesterday that Giannis was fielding phone calls. His agent said that he might be interested and seeing what the future holds for him in Milwaukee, or maybe not. And the only team that he seemed to be interested in, Giannis, was those New York Knicks. But Raheem, from a gambling perspective, Giannis still is a Milwaukee Buck, just out the next 2 to 4 weeks, at least with that right calf strain. How do we play the Bucks going forward?
Well, I mean, this is tough because there are no markets on the Bucks to miss the postseason right now. Open on FanDuel Sportsbook, they are 10-13 right now, and if you look at the Bucks, they're just 16th in offensive rating and 22nd in defensive rating. And without Giannis Antetokounmpo, they're 18 points per 100 possessions worse. I mean, you look at the Bucks with Giannis on the court, they're scoring 126 points per 100 possessions. So Giannis was basically carrying that team when he was in the lineup. They're 1-5 without him. So they have tough sledding. They take on the Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow. Then they go on the road and take on the Detroit Pistons. But I'm looking at this spot from December 21st through December 29th. A 5-game road trip. Minnesota Timberwolves, Indiana Pacers, Memphis Grizzlies, Chicago Bulls, Charlotte Hornets. It's looking like we're probably going to see Giannis trade somewhere around January or February when the trade deadline hits, and it's going to be very interesting to see where he goes because I don't think this Bucks team is going to make any noise at all.
JJ, speaking of the trade deadline, those rumors about the New York Knicks, now with this injury, which these calf strains are very worrisome. They sometimes turn into those Achilles. How much would the Knicks benefit from Giannis even with the injury? Obviously, they would if he's healthy, but now with the injury, do you want him?
Of course I want him. Listen, he's one of the 5 best players in the world. This is a guy who's won an NBA Finals. He's a 2-time MVP. And to me, he'd be the sort of player that could take the Knicks over the top. Now, you're not moving Jalen Brunson. He's clearly an untouchable. But I'd be willing to tango for a whole lot within this Knick roster to go and get Giannis to put alongside Jalen Brunson to go and make your run at either OKC, Denver, or whoever's going to go and come out of the West. The problem is the Knicks took all of those draft picks a few years ago and traded them to Brooklyn for Mikal Bridges. So it is going to require some massive creativity in order to get Giannis.
Would you give up Cat and Bridges?
Yes. Yes, it would. I would. I know that's going to be a painful pill to swallow for a whole lot of Knicks fans. Yes, I don't think the Knicks will sign off on the idea of trading Josh Hart. That is Jalen Brunson's running mate. They got that Villanova connection. I think Josh Hart's going to remain with the team. Now, the Bridges trade, it's complicated because he just signed the extension, so you can't make that trade now for some time. You have to look up the exact parameters of when that deal can go down. What I'm getting at, though, Ariel, I want Giannis. I would make the moves to go and get Giannis, but it is incredibly complicated. And for some other teams, I'm looking at Oklahoma City, I'm looking at the San Antonio Spurs, there's a lot more wiggle room to go and make that trade. So ultimately, despite Giannis wanting to be a Knick, I think he'll probably be playing somewhere else. And Raheem, just so you know, my Milwaukee overs for the season, I might as well take those and light them on fire or flush them down the toilet because, as you like to say, amigo, they are Larry Holmes status, baby. They are done. They are losers.
Flabby and sick. Now, the interesting thing is there's been rumors tying Giannis to the Spurs. The Spurs are 40-1 right now on FanDuel Sportsbook to win the NBA title. Do you take the Spurs preemptively? Do you take the Knicks at 11-1 preemptively? Are there any teams that you want to preemptively bet into, hoping that they get a Giannis trade? Now, obviously, the injury kind of puts a hex on things, but is there any team that you're just willing to just make that bet and hope he gets traded there?
I think you take the Knicks, even though I don't think he's going to get traded there, just because of the value and the upside potential of it. The problem for San Antonio, Raheem, as you know, listen, Giannis and Wemby would be amazing to watch. Are they beating OKC? Are they beating Denver? Are they beating Houston? Like, they'll be awesome to watch. they'll be a top 4 seed. I think it takes a year. Where if he ends up with the Knicks, it's like, oh my goodness, let me take that number.
Yeah, it would be really fun and mayhem in New York if that were to happen. But we've got a couple of minutes left in show. We've got to get to best bets. And I'm just going to let everyone know when Giannis is off the floor, Ryan Rollins take us over on assists. Let's get to best bets. JJ, I'll start with you. What you got going into the weekend?
All right, I'm giving you 2. Detroit Lions laying the 3. Sorry, Raheem. I think it's a kitchen sink game for Dan Campbell. I think the 1-2 punch of Gibbs and Montgomery is going to be too much. And everybody and their mother is on the Cowboys. Not so fast. Not your boy. Give me Detroit laying the 3. And then smoking Joe Burrow. Joe Cool, Cincinnati Bengals, plus the 5.5 in Buffalo. And if you're feeling frisky, play the Cincinnati Bengals to win the game outright.
Let's go to the Dallas Cowboys, plus 3. Let's take a money line. And then let's also go to the association. Toronto Raptors on the money line. This line moved from +1 to -2.5. But I think the Raptors win this game. No Luka Doncic tonight.
I'm going with my 2 bets for tonight. Quarterback of the Lions, Jared Goff, over 249.5 passing yards. He's gone over this in 3 of 5 games when facing teams bottom 10 against the pass. And 260 yards passing yards is what he's averaging and going over in both those home games. Cowboys, most passing yards per game allowed. Gibbs, over 13.5 yards for his longest reception, averaging just over 21 yards per longest catch against teams bottom 10 against pass-catching backs. That is the Dallas Cowboys. 3rd most receiving yards per game allowed to running backs. And just for that stat on Ryan Rollins, because I'm going to be looking at this tomorrow for the Bucks, his over on assists, so he's averaging just over 4 assists a game with Giannis, but without him, averaging about 7, going over a 5.5, which was his assist prop last night. He's gone over that in all 4 games at home without Giannis, and he's averaging, again, 7 assists per game. So let's go with the over there on Ryan Rollins tomorrow. That's it for us here on the Ringer Gambling Show. Good luck to all of your bets this weekend, and thanks to FanDuel for being our sponsor.
Must be 21 or older and present in select states, or 18 or older and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. You must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 or older and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York in New York.